Morning.
Good morning.
Jennifer Poppy, SMD5. My fiance and I have been here a few times and also attended a planning commission meeting regarding some driving range lights in our residential neighborhood that have been a problem with light trespass. January council meeting passed the zone change of Next Level Sports driving and including their driving range under the guidelines that planning had set forth that the owner had to shield the driving range lights. The neighbors and I have noticed no change 2 months after the January council meeting. So I called Rudy Ibarra for an update. He said the lights had been shielded and planning had gone out to the facility and evaluated that, but it was unsatisfactory. It did not resolve the problem. So I called planning and talked to Jeff Fisher. He confirmed that planning had gone out, inspected the shielding, and it was unsatisfactory, did not resolve the problem. And he assured me that planning had sent out a notification to the owner of Next Level Sports with options that he had to resolve the problem. Jeff Fisher said he would give me an update. He did. He called about 2 weeks after that and let me know. He left a voicemail and let me know that no further action was going to be taken per the city manager, and if I had any more questions to call the city manager directly, and I did. I spoke to you, Mr. Valenzuela, regarding the issue and told him the issue was not resolved. Neighbors have not noticed any difference. I haven't noticed any difference. Nobody's enjoying their yards due to this still after over a year. This started February of last year. Mr. Valenzuela told me that no further action was going to be taken because the owner had done everything that planning had required him to do, even though it didn't work. Mr. Valenzuela did tell me that he and John James, the director of planning, had gone out to the facility as well to evaluate the shielding and everything the owner had done, but also said the same thing. They noticed it did not resolve the problem. They could visually see that. I asked Mr. Valenzuela why the other part of the ordinance also wasn't being enforced. He said we know that there's glare issues, and glare is mentioned in the ordinance, and it's still not being enforced. Mr. Valenzuela also said the reason they're not moving forward, making the owner properly shield his lights and get rid of the light trespass is because the owner's attorney got involved, and the owner feels harassed at this point. I let Daniel Valenzuela know the people being harassed here are the people in our neighborhood for over a year now that cannot enjoy their properties. And I guess my question today to you is, why is the ordinance not being enforced? Why isn't anything being done? I have copies of the ordinance if anybody needs to read it to clarify any wording in it. I want those copies of the light ordinance and what it says, or...
Hold on 1 second. Go ahead, Daniel.
No, it is true. We did meet. Actually, I went out there a couple of times and met with Sean Box. We actually had a few staff members that went out there the second time, and we did review to take a look at what Mr. Box had done. And Mr. Box had responded to the plan development, or the planned development actually that the city council had approved, certain things that had to be done on site. He did do the shielding. He did face the lights downward as he was expected to do. He went an additional step and actually put a film over the light itself to kind of reduce the glare as well. So the things that was required of him in the plan development, he actually did accomplish. And again, going out there to meet with him, he also presented information comparing the previous light to the current light situation. And there's a lot of similarities as far as what was there before as well. So what I was telling you is that as far as the plan development, all that was required has been met. So as far as the interpretation, as far as what's in the ordinance, there is mention of glare, yes. But again, what he addressed with us was the fact that he had reduced that glare. We know he has reduced that glare. Now it becomes a is it, do we change the ordinance? Do we make changes to the plan development? What is it exactly that needs to be done? But at this point, what I'm saying is that what is required of Mr. Box and Next Level was accomplished as far as the requirements.
Yes. Again, it did not resolve the issue, and the ordinance is still being violated, and it's not being enforced. I guess that's my question. Why is the ordinance not being enforced?
Well, the ordinance is being enforced. It has been enforced. This is why the requirements were made to the plan development as far as what needed to be done. So again, when you look at the ordinance and how it's defined, Mr. Box will make a certain claim. You'll make a certain claim as far as what you experience as far as the glare. And his is that I've done everything that's been asked of me to reduce that glare, and here it is. So on our end, just taking a look at what was required by council was accomplished by Mr. Box. Again, whether that meets your satisfaction or not, even if he does more work on it, his concern, Mr. Box's concern, any other work that he does to it will not meet your satisfaction or anyone else's satisfaction. He does feel like he's being held to a much higher standard. So on our end, we wanted to make sure that we took a look at what the concern was and make sure that he did address it. Again, going back to that plan development, he did address it according to what was required to him.
Yes, I agree with that. I know he's made some changes, and a lot of those changes were made prior to the January council meeting, which did not help the situation at all. The shielding was the only new thing added. I'm taking it, and it still has not resolved the problem.
Your time limit's up. Thank you very much.
Can I get one question?
Yes.
On what criteria was deemed unsatisfactory?
As far as the lighting, all this stems from the glare situation. And again, what Mr. Box was required to do was to reduce that glare. What was placed in the plan development as far as facing the lights downward, doing the shielding, he did those things. Plus, he added an additional item that wasn't required of him, and he put a film on those lights as well to reduce that glare.
Who deemed those efforts unsatisfactory in the long run after the visits? She said that code enforcement
There were certain recommendations, some other ideas that could be that he could actually push forward and do as well. But he had already met the requirements of the plan development. So at that point, he wasn't required to do any more than that.
All right, that stops the public comment on this item. Okay, thank you. Any further public comment?